Happy Wednesday, everybody. We are getting you set for another MLB DFS main slate. This is the FanDuel Fantasy Q&A right here on the FanDuel YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook pages. My name is Jim Sanas. I am a senior writer and analyst for numberFire.com, here to break down the Wednesday MLB DFS main slate and get you set for tonight. We have, I think, about 10 games on tonight's slate. Lock is at 7:05, and it's a pretty interesting slate because it's tough at pitcher because every pitcher I want to use has some sort of issue. So we're going to go through everything for today and try to get you set, answering all of your questions. If you have questions for tonight's slate, make sure you put them wherever you're watching this. We'll take questions from the YouTube stream. We'll take them from Facebook and from Twitch, no matter where you are watching. Get that question in. We'll get them on the air to get you set for tonight's slate. We can talk pitchers. We can talk stacks, one-offs, process, whatever you want to ask. We can talk about it right here on the FanDuel Fantasy Q&A. As a reminder, make sure you are subscribed wherever you're watching this. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe there and also like the video. Also, if you're watching on Facebook or on Twitch, follow us there to get notifications as we go live each and every day. It's not just these Q&A streams. We also have the Solo Shot live on YouTube every weekday morning. Our PGA podcasts are live on Tuesday at 8 a.m. Or 10 a.m., not 8 a.m. Ooh, that'd be terrible. Tuesday at 10 a.m. for the PGA podcast. And starting next week, we'll have NFL podcasts live on YouTube as well. So plenty of good stuff on the FanDuel YouTube page. But again, as always, we are on Twitch and Facebook as well. First question is from Michael on YouTube, 277 points last night. Yeah, so you basically almost got there by Alex Dickerson by himself. Triple Dong Dickerson. Went deep 3 times. Only 2 of those were while I was awake. I went to sleep before the third one happened, so woke up, looked at the cash line and got frightened, but it wound up being okay because Dickerson was awesome. Aaron Nola was great. So a really high-scoring night where you needed a bunch of points to come through, but a lot of logical plays paid off, specifically Dickerson, Nola, Marcell Ozuna in there too. So pretty fun slate last night, despite the really high scores. Single entry stack. This is from Tech. Okay, so let's go for single entry. I think my pitcher for single entry for tonight is going to be Max Scherzer. There is some weather to monitor in Washington, they're in Philly, in Philadelphia. So there's some weather to monitor there. It looks okay right now, but I would keep an eye on it because it'll be coming in later in the game. But Scherzer's probably my single entry pitcher, which means I need to find some value with my single entry stacks. That probably takes the Padres out of consideration, although I do like them. So instead of the Padres, I would go with the Braves and the Astros as my single entry stacks because they both give me a lot of value to help me get to Max Scherzer. So it depends on where you're going. If you're going lower with your pitcher, then I would say the Padres would be in that discussion. But for me personally with Max Scherzer, I need to go find some value, and the Braves and Astros do provide that. Philly's weather looks dicey. This is from Mateo. So which other pitchers do you like for tonight? I like Lamet. How about you? So yeah, I think let's pull up the weather here for the Philly game. It looks right now as if the rain will be getting there later in the day. And if that timeline holds, and if we get confirmation that the rain's not going to get there until later, I still like Max Scherzer. However, I think that your hesitation, Mateo, is understandable, and I will not push back on that. So let's go through some other pitchers. You mentioned Dinelson Lamet. I agree. Lamet is a really good option for tonight. He is facing off with the Angels, a lower strikeout team, and definitely not a matchup I'd like to target, but they're not like the world's best offense either. It's a decent park for pitching. And Lamet has been awesome. 2.83 skill interactive ERA his past 4 starts where he has gotten rid of his sinker. He has a 39% strikeout rate in that time. The only concern I have, and the reason I'm willing to risk it with Scherzer rather than going with Lamet, is that the pitch count for Lamet has been lower, 80, 91, 84, 83, 81, 97, and 90, whereas Scherzer's been 108 or higher, I think 3 times so far this year. So he's hit 108 or higher 3 times, and that is 11 pitches more than Lamet's max this year. So I'm willing to risk it with Scherzer, and Scherzer is my number 1 pitcher. But if you are concerned about the weather, Lamet would be the first place I would go outside of that. So I think that that's the way I'm viewing things. So, Mateo, I'm on board with Lamet as well for tonight. Tech says, I had Ozuna. He did it too. Yeah, 3 homers for both Ozuna and Dickerson. If you're playing the home run challenge, that would have been a nice little combination. So that definitely worked. And I think that Ozuna's in play once again for tonight. Actually, I haven't checked the Braves line to see if he's in there, but getting two separate dudes to have triple dongs, not all that common. So a fun night last night. Ozuna is batting third. Definitely will be on board with that. Cody is asking for the top stack tonight. So again, this kind of depends on where you go at pitcher, because I'm going Scherzer, and it's hard to afford the Padres with Scherzer. But if you're going Lamet and you decide to save the salary there, I do think that the Padres are the number one stack. Julio Teheran, really rough year so far. A lot of hard contact, not a lot of strikeouts, and the Padres have been disgusting. It's also, I mentioned, it's not a terrible park for pitching. It's also not a terrible park for hitting. So it's very much a neutral park. So I think the Padres are number one if you can get to them. If not, I would say the Braves would be number one for me ahead of the Astros. Alvin, any change to Brave stack with the Red Sox starting a different pitcher? Yes. Okay, so they're starting Robinson Lyer. I didn't get a chance to check on his pronunciation, unfortunately, so sorry, Robinson. But he is starting for the Red Sox. However, it sounds as if he is just an opener. So it'll probably be Lyer as an opener, and then Mike Kickham. I was thinking of Nick Kingham. Mike Kickham as the bulk reliever for the Braves. So the one thing that does do, Alvin, is it potentially gives additional credence to considering the left-handed batters in this Braves lineup. Our video producer, Calvin Theobald, this morning was telling me he is in on Nick Markakis, and you have a better reason to justify Nick Markakis now, because Markakis is batting fourth against a righty. The question is, will Lyer actually stay in long enough to face Markakis? That would be a slight concern for me, because if I were the Red Sox, I honestly wouldn't even start the righty. I would just go with the lefty the full time, get Freeman and Markakis against the lefty, but, whatever. The Red Sox are going to do what the Red Sox are going to do. So I would say it maybe bumps up Freeman and Markakis a bit, but it doesn't really change everything else. We do get Travis d'Arnaud, Austin Riley, and Adam Duvall right here at the 5, 6, 7. All three of those guys are at least close to being value plays. So let's go into this Braves lineup here. I would say I want to start with those value options because, even Lamet is not super low salaried. So I would say Riley, we're going to go Duvall. I think d'Arnaud is iffy. If you're going with Lamet and have more flexibility, I'd probably skip over d'Arnaud and go with Ozuna and Swanson or something like that. But let's say you're going Scherzer and you just really need savings, then I probably would go d'Arnaud there. And I think that once you do that, you're going to have a lot of flexibility with your Scherzer lineups. That gets you up to, 3,180 for the remainder of your lineup. And I would kind of fill out your second stack. So I was talking about the Astros as my second stack. I would fill in the top three Braves that you want, go to your other stack. Let's say, again, for me, that's probably the Astros. Fill them in, and then let that dictate where you want to go with the fourth member of your Brave stack. For me, I'm probably going to get Carlos Correa in there for every time I use the Astros, and that means it's harder to use Swanson. I could put Correa in the utility slot and Swanson at shortstop, so it would not omit Swanson, but it would push me more towards, going to Mr. Triple Dong himself, Marcell Ozuna, as being the fourth part of that stack. So that's the way I'm viewing things for tonight as far as the Braves go. I do think that it does change it a bit with a righty starting, but again, I think the bulk of this game is going to be from the lefty with Kickham, and as a result, I'm still favoring the Braves righties there. Let's see if the Astros lineup is out yet, because then we can go through some stacks with them as well. I think it was. I actually don't recall for sure if their lineup was out. It is out. Okay. So we got this is a pretty basic lineup from the Astros. The one thing that's worth considering here is, do you go with Michael Brantley or Kyle Tucker? I'm not going to address that yet. We're going to start things off here. We're going to start with Scherzer. We're going to keep him in there, and we're going to go Correa first because Carlos Correa is awesome, and I adore him. We're going to go Gurriel second because he's batting fourth, I believe. Yeah, he's batting fourth at $2,900. So we'll start with those two guys. I would say Altuve at $3,200 definitely works. And if I put Springer in there, I think I can make that work. It's going to, make me scramble for some value plays outside of that. But $2,800 is doable. So I would say these are the Astros I want to use. I might not need to go at the lefties. Let's go look at Michael Brantley's numbers against lefties since the start of last year, though, just to see if he's viable, because Brantley, I think, is $2,900 as well. He is, $2,900. Okay, so let's go back over here. Check out Brantley's numbers against lefties, because then if you don't want to go to Springer or you can't find the salary to get to Springer, maybe you want to splurge a bit more on your Braves stack, then you can go down to Michael Brantley. Okay, we go to splits. And we go to handedness versus lefty. So show us year-by-year numbers for Brantley against lefties. Last year, he had a 104 ISO against lefties. That's not too hot. That's kind of gross. 42% hard hit rate, though. Just a lot of ground balls. So if you can find a way to get to Springer, I'd much rather go to him than Brantley. But I do think that Brantley is at least in play, just not my preferred option. Alvin, do you like Hendricks for tonight? I don't tend to use Kyle Hendricks all that often in DFS, but he does have an elite matchup. He's facing the Pirates, so like the odds that Kyle Hendricks gives you 40 points are really high because the Pirates are really bad, and Hendricks is a good real-world pitcher. So real-world pitcher, I think that Kyle Hendricks is going to be like, he's going to pitch really well tonight. I can guarantee you that. I just don't know what the odds are that he gives you 60 points. And I kind of want a pitcher who has the upside to give me 60 points because, that's going to make a major difference. And it gives you a lot more wiggle room for your stacks to fail. Like Max Scherzer, 58 his last time out, 56 in that one. We know that he can post a big score, 10 strikeouts there, but did allow 5 earned runs. We know he can get to 60. Dinelson Lamet hasn't gone super deep, so we're not going to see a ton of upside with regards to his numbers, but did get 60 in that one, so he can get to 60. Hendricks may have gotten around there in like one of his first 2 starts this year, but he's a guy who tends to live in the 40-ish range, and that's fine. 40 is okay, but I'd rather go with someone who has the ability to get me a 60 burger. Like Tristan McKenzie, who is a little bit cheaper even than Hendricks. I think that his odds of hitting like a really massive score are going to be higher. 55 points in his first game because he had 10 strikeouts. So I think that Hendricks is more viable than usual because his matchup is so good. He's just not the type of pitcher I tend to use in DFS because the strikeout rate is really low. So I think that if you're just looking for like safety, Kyle Hendricks works. I want more upside out of my pitchers, so doesn't really fit all that well. But I will say again, I am more willing to use him tonight than I usually am, just because the matchup against the Pirates is so good. Aaron, what's the latest on the Boston weather? What's the deal with the Boston starter? Sorry if you already covered that, just joined. Okay, so let's take out the weather here first. I think this one looks okay because the weather there is supposed to be out of there by the time the game starts, and dark sky weather is still showing the same thing. This is on the numberFire games and lineups page. It still shows the weather being gone by first pitch. So I think that they are good to go from a weather perspective. Talked about this before, but Aaron, because you just hopped on, the starter is probably just going to be an opener. Robinson Lyer probably will be in there just for like an inning or two, and then we'll give way to Mike Kickham. So it sounds like it's still going to be Kickham for the majority of it, so it doesn't really alter my views on the Braves bats that much. I still think it is full speed ahead with them from a stacking perspective for tonight. Question over on Periscope from looks like Spence. Just got here. Top teams to stack and pitchers you like. Okay, so teams to stack, I would say Padres if you have the salary. If you don't have the salary, I like the Astros and the Braves from a stacking perspective. Other ones we have not discussed yet. Don't mind Cleveland. They're not all that great. I like the Twins a decent amount. They're facing Ronaldo Lopez, and the Twins getting healthier finally, so that's definitely a good thing for them. Doesn't look like the lineup is in there for the Twins yet, but as the Twins get healthier, my willingness to use them increases, so I think the Twins are an option. Those would be the 5 stacks that I'm focusing on. The Braves, the Padres, the Astros, Cleveland, and the Twins are the main ones I am focusing on for tonight. Pitchers I like Max Scherzer as my number 1 pitcher. Dinelson Lamet is my number 2. Tristan McKenzie is my number 3 from a pitching perspective for tonight. Question from Tech over on YouTube, from Jesus. Javier from Houston. Yeah, Christian Javier is a good pitcher. And he's put up good numbers this year, 26% strikeout rate. He is facing the Rangers. I like both those things, limiting hard contact. So, again, good real-world pitcher. The problem I have with Javier is that the pitch counts have been low: 82, 79, 63, 88, 70, 89. He has not gone 90 pitches yet so far this year. Whereas like Lamet, I've seen him go 97 in one start. So I know that there is a possibility I'll get 95 out of him, whereas I don't think that's the case with Javier. And with Tristan McKenzie, his max pitch count is 84, but that's only in 2 starts. So the sample on Javier having a lower pitch count is larger than it is with McKenzie. So I can predict with more certainty that the pitch count for Javier will be under 90, whereas with McKenzie, there's a little bit more unknown. I think that's pretty attractive. McKenzie's matchup is pretty good too. Facing the Royals, 88 WRC plus against righties, 25% strikeout rate. So I would say, Jesus, that Javier is not out of play. I think he's kind of similar to Hendricks, where you can make the case to use him, and I would not push back too much on that. However, the reason I am not going to be going there is because of the pitch count. I think that they're probably going to keep him under 90. Like if I'm making a projection, it's probably about 85 pitches for Javier. That's low enough where I'd rather find the money to get up to Lamet or go down to McKenzie if I'm trying to find a lower salaried pitcher. Tech says, Cleveland has been good to me this season. They've been good to me at times. They've also burned me a couple times. I think that's just kind of like the way their season has gone. They've been pretty volatile. Let's see if their lineup is out here yet. They're facing Jacob Junis, and Junis is not like my favorite guy to target from a stacking perspective, but you can definitely get some lefties in there. Josh Naylor, I would assume, is going to be decently low salaried once again for today. He's $2,300. Tyler Naquin is $27. So Naquin's salary is increasing, but still not to the point where he is prohibitive. So I do think that Cleveland's a decent stack. I prefer the Twins, I think, between the two. That's where I'm leaning right now. Question from Tom V on question over on Periscope. Are you doing NBA as well today? I am not. Tom Vecchio is doing the Daily ISO every day. It's a podcast on the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed. So what I would do, DBLBGR, is go search for the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed and check out the Daily ISO with Tom Vecchio and check out his work. Tom is awesome. Tom is much smarter at me when it comes to NBA. I am not smart when it comes to NBA, which is why I'm talking about baseball instead, but Tom's really good. So I'd recommend going there because he can definitely help meet your needs from an NBA perspective. I, unfortunately, am not that guy. I listen to Tom when I'm playing NBA DFS, so I would recommend that you do the same there. Let's refresh this and see if we've got any new lineups in here, because I do want to try to find some other options outside of the stacks we've already discussed. Okay, so the Yankees are facing Charlie Morton, and Morton has been on the injured list. He was some pretty massive struggles earlier in the year, and you could see that he just didn't look right. So he went on the injured list and is now coming back. That could indicate that Morton is now healthy, in which case, if we get 2019 Charlie Morton, he could shut down this new version of the Yankees lineup. But if we get the pre-injury Charlie Morton, who was letting up a lot of hard contact and not getting enough strikeouts, this Yankees lineup could do really well against him. So I would give some consideration to maybe, a Clint Frazier type guy, Aaron Hicks, potentially some like mid-range plays, $2,800 and $2,900. Mike Tauchman potentially. I would consider the Yankees as well. Question from Gregory. Home run call of the night. Obvious and then under the radar. Okay, let's go. Let's think here. If I'm going obvious, I think the best way to do so is to go out to San Diego, or I guess out to Los Angeles technically, and talk about Fernando Tatis, because he is quite good at baseball. I'm not sure if you all have noticed this yet, but Fernando Tatis is good at baseball. Who could have possibly predicted this would be the case? So if I'm going super easy, I go Tatis. If I want to go a little bit different on the same team, I think Trent Grisham's a pretty good option. He's $3,200, got some pop. He can hit righties pretty well. It's a lefty against Julio Teheran. We always like that. So I would say Grisham as slightly under the radar, but that also might not count because it is Teheran. So I'm not going to cheat Gregory. I will give you another one potentially under the radar. I'm going to go Max Kepler facing Ronaldo Lopez. Lopez has struggled quite a bit so far this year. Kepler, $3,000, and he hasn't really done all that much so far this year. Like, there is a reason that Max Kepler checks into $3,000. Also, the team itself has not been good. Like, I can just say they have not been good recently. Kepler in a pretty major rut, but I'm saying he gets out of that rut here tonight against Ronaldo Lopez. So Tatis as the super obvious one, Trent Grisham as the kind of less obvious one, and then Max Kepler as the under-the-radar one for tonight. See, Cody asked for home run calls as well over on YouTube as I was answering that question. So let's do one more just for funsies. I could go Correa. Should we go Carlos Correa? I love Carlos Correa. Carlos Correa is facing a lefty in Colby Allard, whose ground ball rate has cratered so far this year. And Carlos Correa, not the best of form, certainly, but I still think he's quite good at baseball. So I'm going to go Carlos Correa as the additional one. Alvin is asking, is the home run challenge over at FanDuel? I believe it still is. I actually have not, I used to have a whoops. Okay, this is dumb. Okay, so we're going to go lobby. If I can figure out how to work my Mac. Macs are weird. I'm used to working on a PC, so working on a Mac definitely can sometimes give me some issues, but we will go over here. Actually, no. I think it is on FanDuel. They had it before, so I'd assume that the home run challenge is still there. So I would check it out at least. And it's pretty fun. I think you get if you get 3 home runs in your lineup, they will give you money, and then you get more money if you get 6 home runs. So if you had Dickerson and Ozuna last night, things would have gone pretty well for you. Josh, still the same stack rankings from the solo shot. Slight adjustment because I think I'm raising the Twins, putting them above Cleveland and the Yankees. So I think the Twins are number 4. So the top 3 are still the same to me. And the top 3 were the Padres, Astros, and Braves. Not in that order. I had the Braves higher. So Padres, Braves, Astros. I'm going to put the Twins number 4 on that list, facing off against Lopez. Their implied total is pretty high, so I don't think the Twins are going to be an under-the-radar stack by any means. But they're also probably not going to get the most attention. So I think the Twins are moving up to number 4 on my stacking list. I'll put Cleveland 5th, and I'll put the Yankees 6th, just because I have a lot of respect for Charlie Morton. I'm hoping, this is the fan in me. I like watching Charlie Morton pitch. I'd like for him to come back and be fully healthy. So, I guess I'm kind of hoping that the Charlie Morton does well. So that would mean that the Yankees stack would not do that well. So from a hopefulness perspective, I will put the Yankees 6th behind Cleveland. Yeah, Cody, sorry, I mixed them up. I was talking about the order there. Cleveland number 5 for stacking for me, going up against Jacob Junis. I prefer the Twins over them. So definitive, cannot fade rankings of stacks for tonight. Padres 1, Braves 2, Astros 3, Twins 4, Cleveland 5, Yankees 6. Yeah, Cody, sorry, I keep answering the questions right before you ask them, because the questions are a little bit behind when I see them. So good timing. I think you're reading my mind here. So this is definitely working out really well. Other things to note for tonight. The reason that we haven't talked about Walker Buehler is I'm a bit worried about pitch count. I've been searching Twitter and trying to find pitch count stuff. It's possible it's come out since we started the stream or just before it. So I think the best way to try to find pitch count info is on Twitter. Go to Twitter and search Walker Buehler, PITCH, just pitch. And that will tell you if someone tweets out, a beat reporter tweets out pitch count or pitch limit, then the tweets will show up there. And I would go to the top category versus, or I think it's latest or something like that, latest as opposed to top. That will give you a good idea if a pitcher has a pitch count for that night. I've not seen anything thus far in Walker Buehler, but he threw a 35-pitch bullpen session a couple days ago. If I'm projecting pitches for Buehler, I'd say 70-ish coming off that blister, just because they might probably want to be a little bit cautious for him as they were earlier in the year. So I would say that's the reason I'm a bit lower on Walker Buehler, is that I'm worried about pitch count. Zach Gallen is awesome. I adore him. He has already shut down the Dodgers once so far this year, but pretty tough to ask him to do the same thing twice, and that's why I am focusing mainly on Max Scherzer and on Lamet for my other pitcher for today. Ian Happ batting leadoff. Thoughts? I like Joe Musgrove. Musgrove's numbers before his injury, he's another guy coming out the injured list. the numbers from Musgrove weren't that great, but I have a lot of faith in him as a player, so I'm not that into Hap. Personally, I'm always into Hap in general, but I think for tonight, I'm okay avoiding him out of optimism around Joe Musgrove coming off the injured list. That is all the time that we have for today. As always, though, I want to thank you all for tuning in. Tomorrow is a pretty fun early-only slate, so we'll be breaking that down on the solo shot in the morning. We'll do a split slate podcast for tomorrow on the solo shot. That is recording on YouTube at 9 a.m. Eastern, so make sure you are subscribed to the FanDuel YouTube page to get that as it goes live each and every morning. And if you're watching this afternoon stream on Twitch or Facebook, make sure you follow us there as well to get notifications as we go live. Big thank you to Calvin Theobald, our video producer, for running the video side of things here today. Thank you, Cal, as always. And thank you to everyone for tuning in. Let's hope that tonight goes as well as last night. Let's get some triple dongs in there once again, and let's rack up those points. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. This has been the FanDuel Fantasy Q&A.